Nothing external can touch the soul unless it is allowed to. Marcus Aurelius. Imagine for a moment that your calm could be louder than any argument, stronger than any insult, and more persuasive than any threat. What if I told you that the true power that makes people pause, respect, and even fear isn't wealth, status, or influence, but the quiet, unshakable peace within you? Most people chase control over others, reacting to every slight, every provocation, every drama. But there's a different way, a Stoic way, where your serenity becomes your shield and your strategy. In this video, you're going to discover why peace is not weakness, why composure is not passivity, and how mastering your inner calm turns you into someone whose presence alone commands respect. Stick around until the very end, because the insights we'll uncover aren't just abstract philosophy. They are practical tools you can start using immediately, transforming the way others perceive you, and more importantly, how you perceive yourself. By the time this video ends, you'll see why the quietest people in the room are often the most powerful, and why cultivating your own inner peace might just be the most intimidating move you'll ever make. Number 1. Calmness in chaos unsettles those seeking conflict. Picture yourself in the eye of a storm. Everything around you is chaos. People shouting, emotions flaring, the world seems as if it's teetering on the edge of collapse. And yet here you are, steady, composed, unshaken. You might think it's just luck, that maybe you're somehow immune to the turmoil. But it's more than that. This is the quiet, invisible power of calmness. There is a force in being unruffled when others are desperate to provoke you, when every moment is charged with tension and conflict. The Stoics teach us that peace is not passive, it is active mastery over your inner world. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. When you embody calmness in chaos, you unsettle those who thrive on disorder, those who seek conflict for control, validation, or dominance. They expect reaction, they anticipate agitation, but you give them none. Your steadiness becomes a mirror that reflects their own instability back at them, and they are forced to confront a truth they may have never admitted, that their power depends on the reaction of others. When you refuse to react, when you anchor yourself in calmness, you seize a subtle but formidable leverage. This isn't about suppressing feelings or bottling up emotion. It's about conscious choice. It's about recognizing that while you cannot control the storm outside, you can control the currents within. Anger, frustration, fear, urgency. They are all like wild waves, but you are the calm harbor, the unmovable rock. People drawn to conflict often operate like predators. They are hunting reactions, seeking to stir chaos, craving validation through the disruption of others. Your peace acts as an invisible shield, turning their efforts to unsettle you into futility. They may escalate, they may lash out, but your unshakable presence neutralizes the tension before it can take root. It's a quiet intimidation. You don't need to shout, to argue, to dominate physically or verbally. Simply being calm is enough to command respect, to disarm aggression, to establish authority without forcing it. Seneca observed, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." The trials, the chaos, become the stage on which your calmness is most powerful. The more chaotic the environment, the more your inner composure shines, like a lighthouse cutting through fog. To cultivate this in your life, start small. Train your mind to pause before responding. Observe tension as it rises in your body. Notice the quickening heartbeat, the flush of irritation, the impulse to react. Then breathe. Center yourself. Remind yourself that the external turmoil is outside your control, but your mind remains sovereign. Each time you practice this, even in minor situations, you are strengthening the muscle of calm. The muscle that in high-stakes moments will allow you to act with precision, clarity, and authority while others are blinded by agitation. It's a paradox. By doing less, by reacting less, you gain more. Your restraint is your power. Your silence is your signal. Your peace is your unspoken weapon. Think about the psychological effect this has on people around you. Human beings are wired to respond to the energy of others. Anger begets anger, panic fuels panic. But when someone refuses to participate in the emotional contagion, the imbalance is palpable. Those seeking conflict are disoriented, thrown off their rhythm, forced to reconsider their tactics. They are unsure, irritated, sometimes intimidated, not by volume or force, but by the impossibility of influencing your inner state. You become a silent authority, a presence that demands recalibration from everyone who enters your orbit. Your calmness becomes contagious in another way too. It invites reason, clarity, and composure in others, but only for those willing to rise above the chaos. Those who are not feel their own instability reflected back at them, and the contrast is jarring. To live this consistently, integrate daily exercises in emotional sovereignty. Before responding to any provocation, practice 3 deep, intentional breaths. Pause, even for a few seconds, to reset your mind. Reflect on the Stoic principle that what disturbs you is often not the event itself, but your judgment of it. Repeat mentally, "This is outside my control. My peace is mine." Over time, these small repetitions train your mind to default to calmness, making your reactions measured and deliberate. Visualize chaos around you while maintaining serenity. Imagine arguments, distractions, pressures, but see yourself unmoved, like a tree whose roots go deep beneath the soil. The practice embeds in you a mental habit that, when triggered in real life, allows your calmness to rise naturally, without effort, without force. Remember, calmness in chaos is intimidating precisely because it is rare. Most people cannot access it. They are impulsive, reactive, emotionally volatile. By contrast, your serenity is a form of silent power that requires no announcement. You do not have to prove it, argue for it, or demonstrate it. Simply embody it. The more extreme the conflict, the more it shines. Your calm becomes a mirror, revealing both your own mastery and the turbulence of others. It is a power rooted not in dominance or aggression, but in self-command, clarity, and deliberate choice. The ultimate lesson is that true strength is not loud. It is not reactive. It is measured, unshakable, and persistent. When you cultivate calmness in the eye of the storm, you are no longer at the mercy of chaos. Instead, you stand above it. You unsettle those who thrive on conflict, not by fighting them, but by showing them that your power does not depend on their drama. Your peace is a fortress, your composure a sword sharper than any shout, and your presence a quiet authority that commands without needing to assert. Step into this practice, make it habitual, and watch as your life and the people around you shift. In a world full of noise, chaos, and agitation, your calmness becomes your most intimidating and most respected power. Number 2, unshakable composure signals inner strength. There is a quiet kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, and doesn't need validation. It's the kind of power that moves like water, calm, steady, unstoppable in its own subtle way. That is the power of unshakable composure. When you cultivate a mind that remains serene regardless of chaos around you, you radiate an authority that no argument, insult, or provocation can shake. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The essence here is simple but profound. When your calm is unbreakable, you demonstrate a strength that cannot be measured by muscle or volume, only by presence. People sense it immediately. They feel it in the pauses you take before reacting, in the steadiness of your voice, in the way your eyes don't dart or flinch. Your composure becomes a silent statement that you are not ruled by circumstance, that your peace is not for sale, and that your center cannot be shaken by the turbulence around you. To develop this, you must first recognize the illusions that so often disturb us. Most people react to life as if it were a storm they must battle, lashing out, defending themselves, and surrendering pieces of their energy to every trivial disturbance. But the Stoics teach us to observe the storm, to remain rooted while winds rage, to let the chaos swirl around you without pulling you into it. When you practice this daily, even in small moments, the slow sip of your morning tea when the world rushes by, the measured breath before you reply to a sharp comment, the patience in listening without immediately responding, you are training your mind to be unflappable. Each deliberate pause is a small victory, a reinforcement of your internal fortress. And here's the truth. When you master this, people notice. They notice your reactions, or more importantly, your lack of reaction. Your silence in the face of provocation, your measured tone when others escalate, your patience when others hurry. All of it signals something far more intimidating than anger or aggression ever could. You are signaling that your value, your confidence, your center are not dependent on approval, fear, or manipulation. You are telling the world without words that you are in control of what matters most, yourself. Practice becomes crucial. Start by observing your emotional triggers. Notice the moments when irritation rises, when frustration bubbles, when impatience gnaws at you. Don't fight it, don't judge it, simply notice. Awareness is the first step in mastery. Then in those moments, pause, take a breath. Slow down the internal dialogue that wants to react immediately. Ask yourself, will this reaction serve me? Will it strengthen or weaken me? Often, the answer is that the impulsive reaction only drains you. Choosing calm instead fortifies your power. Each time you do this, you are reinforcing a neural pathway of composure, creating a reflexive habit of serenity that becomes your default rather than your exception. Another practical exercise is visualization. Before entering challenging situations, meetings, conversations, even casual interactions, take a moment to visualize yourself unshakable. Picture your posture relaxed, your mind clear, your reactions measured and deliberate. Imagine that nothing outside your control can disturb your inner equilibrium. The Stoics often used visualization not as mere fantasy, but as preparation to meet life's unpredictability with fortitude. By rehearsing calm internally, you make it easier to manifest externally. You begin to carry a presence that others sense as stability, a magnetic gravity that draws respect without effort. It's also about prioritizing what truly deserves your energy. When you treat every slight, every criticism, every interruption as something worthy of full engagement, you surrender pieces of your power constantly. But when you discern what merits a response and what does not, your composure becomes sharper, your presence more commanding. People begin to respect not only your words but your silence, not only your actions but your measured restraint. There is no better way to show inner strength than to rise above pettiness, drama, or noise. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean passivity or avoidance. It means mastery over your reactions. It means engaging fully when it matters, but never letting the world dictate your emotional state. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Composure is not a mask. It is the authentic expression of strength. It is the understanding that life will throw chaos, challenge, and provocation at you, but your inner core, your clarity, your peace, is inviolable. To integrate this into daily life, create rituals that anchor your mind. Begin or end your day with meditation or reflection. Pause before answering messages that provoke, before speaking in conflict, before reacting to minor annoyances. Make a habit of breathing deliberately, of grounding yourself in your body, of reminding yourself that no external event can dictate your worth or your calm. With consistent practice, these small choices accumulate into a fortress of presence that is unmistakable to anyone around you. Ultimately, unshakable composure is the most intimidating form of power because it cannot be contested or diminished by others. It is visible without being loud, felt without being forced, respected without being demanded. When you embody this, you become like a calm sea in the midst of a storm. Everything around you rages, but your surface remains serene, your depths impenetrable. People will instinctively respect you, sometimes fear you, not because of what you say, but because of what you do not say, not because of your volume, but because of your unassailable peace. This is the Stoic power that transforms ordinary presence into a force that commands attention and reverence. You have the capacity to cultivate this within yourself. Start today. Notice, pause, breathe, reflect, and practice. Step into the rhythm of life without being swept away by it. Let your peace be your power, your composure your signature, and watch as the world unconsciously bows to a strength it cannot touch, but cannot ignore. Number 3, silence communicates more than words ever could. Silence is one of the most underestimated forces in human interaction. We are conditioned to believe that to be heard, to be noticed, we must speak, explain, justify, or defend. But what if I told you that the true power, the kind that subtly commands respect, that shifts the energy of a room, that unsettles the restless minds around you, doesn't come from words at all? In the quiet, there is authority. In the pause, there is presence. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on the nature of control and restraint, reminds us, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Silence is the embodiment of this. It is you exercising control over your impulses, your reactions, and your need to constantly fill the void with speech. It is deliberate. It is measured. It is profoundly intimidating, not in a way that threatens, but in a way that signals mastery, composure, and confidence. When you speak less, people pay attention more. They notice your gaze, your posture, the stillness in your movements. The absence of words forces them to engage with your energy rather than your explanations, to reckon with the weight of your presence rather than the volume of your voice. Consider this: every conversation you have is a vessel of energy. Words are like sparks, bright, noticeable, but fleeting. Silence, on the other hand, is like the night sky, vast, dense, and full of unspoken gravity. When you learn to harness silence, you are no longer at the mercy of the moment. You are shaping the atmosphere, setting the tone, and subtly asserting dominance without ever raising your voice. People will project meaning onto your quiet. They will interpret restraint as thoughtfulness, confidence, even superiority. You don't need to assert control through argument or persuasion. The quiet alone speaks volumes. Epictetus teaches, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Silence is reaction at its most potent. It is the absence of impulsive response, a refusal to be drawn into chaos, a declaration that your inner peace is unassailable. Now, here's where it becomes truly transformative. When you practice silence, you are training yourself to be fully present, to observe rather than react. You start noticing the nuances in others' behavior, the patterns of thought, the undercurrents of tension or admiration. You gain insight because your mind isn't cluttered with the noise of your own words. The more comfortable you become with silence, the more others are compelled to fill it, to reach toward you, to seek your perspective. But here's the secret. Resist the urge to immediately respond. Let the silence linger just enough to make your presence felt without intrusion. Every pause, every moment of unspoken thought adds weight to your character. It communicates patience, composure, and discernment, qualities that cannot be faked. People intuitively respect those who are not hurried, who are not anxious to speak, who are not desperate for validation. This isn't passive. Silence is active power. It is intentional. It is a form of mastery over yourself and over social dynamics. You are, in essence, saying more than any words could convey. I am in control. I am present. I am unshaken. The quiet draws attention, yes, but it also protects your energy. It keeps you from reactive arguments, from being dragged into needless conflict, from diluting your influence with unnecessary explanations. In practicing silence, you are refining your ability to discern when words are necessary and when they would merely dissipate your power. As Seneca advises, everywhere means nowhere. The more you speak without purpose, the more your energy spreads thin, the more you become diluted in the noise of the world. Silence concentrates presence. Silence amplifies impact. To make this practical, begin with observation. Notice how people react when someone deliberately pauses, when someone refrains from immediate response, when words are measured and chosen with care. Practice this in your daily interactions. Hold a pause before you respond to a question, before you offer an opinion, before you defend yourself. Observe how the room shifts, how tension dissipates, how curiosity awakens. Then extend this to deeper practice. Schedule intentional periods of silence in your day, not out of avoidance but as a cultivation of presence. Reflect during these moments, strengthen your inner calm, allow your thoughts to settle. The external silence becomes a mirror of internal mastery. Over time, you will notice that people begin to anticipate your words rather than demand them. Your presence becomes magnetic. Your absence from the constant chatter is felt. Your silence commands more attention than any speech ever could. Finally, embrace silence as a philosophy, not just a tactic. It is not merely withholding speech. It is a declaration of inner sovereignty. It is a Stoic exercise in self-restraint, a demonstration that your equilibrium is not dictated by external chaos or provocation. Each time you resist the urge to fill the air with words, you are choosing peace over agitation, mastery over impulse, and influence over noise. In this way, silence becomes a weapon, a shield, and a declaration all at once. It is intimidation not through force but through calm, through measured presence, through the quiet assertion that your energy is yours alone and it will not be wasted. Make this your practice. Let silence speak and watch as your presence, your peace, and your power grow beyond measure. Number 4, detachment from outcomes protects your energy. Let's start with a simple truth that most people resist. The world doesn't owe you anything. Your plans, your efforts, your careful strategies, they do not guarantee results. And yet so many of us spend hours, days, even years letting our energy, our mood, our focus hinge entirely on outcomes we cannot fully control. Imagine what would happen if you took a step back, loosened your grip on the result, and stopped letting the uncertainty of the future dictate your present. This is the essence of detachment from outcomes, a Stoic principle that is quietly, invisibly, profoundly powerful. Marcus Aurelius tells us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. Think about that. Not controlling events, not bending others to your will, not forcing the universe into alignment with your desires, but controlling your own mind, your own responses, your own energy. That is the truest form of power, and it is deeply intimidating to anyone who measures strength by agitation, chaos, or reaction. Detachment from outcomes is not resignation, not laziness, not indifference. It is a conscious, active practice of protecting your energy. When you stop tying your sense of peace to what others do, to the market, to the whims of chance, to every small ripple in your environment, you free yourself to act from a place of clarity and calm. You begin to understand that your effort is yours, your focus is yours, your presence is yours, and the result, while you can influence it, does not have the power to steal your calm. Think about how often you have been drained, frustrated, or anxious because a meeting didn't go as expected, because someone didn't respond the way you wanted, because a plan faltered. That's energy surrendered. That's attention given away. Detachment is the reclaiming of that energy. It's the armor that keeps you steady when the storm hits, the quiet center that others sense, the presence that makes you unshakable and, in a very real sense, untouchable. Here's the practical truth. When you practice detachment, people notice. They may not understand it intellectually, but they feel it viscerally. A person who is calm in the face of uncertainty, who acts decisively without clinging to results, who remains centered when everything else fluctuates, projects a power that is silent but undeniable. Seneca said, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." When your energy isn't hostage to outcomes, you operate from a reservoir that most people never even know exists. You become hard to provoke, hard to manipulate, hard to destabilize. And that, my friend, is a kind of quiet intimidation, the kind that makes people pause, reflect, and ultimately respect your presence and your discipline. It is a power that doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to force, it simply is. You can start practicing this now. The next time you are setting a goal, making a plan, or pursuing something important, consciously separate your effort from the result. Focus entirely on what you can control: your preparation, your actions, your attention to detail, your mindset. Release attachment to what happens after. It's easy to say, "I want this to succeed," but what happens if it does? Instead of reacting with frustration, disappointment, or self-doubt, observe your response. Train yourself to notice the tug of attachment, the pull of expectation, and then intentionally return your focus to what you can influence. Each time you do this, you strengthen your mental resilience. Each time you do this, you protect your energy, keeping it whole, vibrant, and available for what truly matters: your actions, your presence, your decisions. Another practical exercise is reflection. At the end of each day, review moments where you were invested in outcomes beyond your control. Where did your energy leak? Where did your calm falter because you were chasing a result instead of owning your actions? Then, imagine handling those same situations with detachment. Visualize your composure, your focus, your unshakable calm. This mental rehearsal is crucial. It trains your mind to respond in real time, to instinctively preserve your energy, to naturally separate effort from result. Over time, detachment becomes second nature. You don't need to force it. It simply becomes the lens through which you operate, the rhythm that underlies your actions. Detachment also transforms your relationship with risk. When your energy isn't bound to outcomes, you can take bolder actions, make decisions with clarity, and engage fully without fear. You operate from a place of abundance rather than scarcity because your calm isn't dependent on winning or losing, on approval or rejection. That is why peace is intimidating. People who are desperate, reactive, or insecure cannot understand it. They feel it, though. They sense that your power is not conditional, that your strength is not borrowed from fleeting circumstances. This makes you an anchor in chaos, a silent force that others respect even if they cannot articulate why. Finally, detachment protects your joy and focus. Life is unpredictable. Events shift, people change, plans fail. If your energy and happiness are tied to these things, you are always at risk, always reactive. Detachment is freedom. It is the ability to engage fully, to pursue your goals with energy and clarity, and to emerge unscathed no matter the outcome. It is a stoic armor, a quiet power that underpins everything you do. The more you practice it, the more you internalize it, the less the world can touch you, and the more you operate from a space of calm authority that commands respect without needing to assert it. So start today. Practice separating your effort from the result. Observe the pull of expectation, let it go, and return your focus to what you can control. Reflect on your actions, refine your responses, and visualize your composure in the face of uncertainty. Over time, this detachment will become instinctive, your energy will remain intact, and your presence will radiate a quiet, undeniable power. This is the core of Stoic strength, the essence of peace as a weapon, and the path to being unshakable in a world that constantly tries to shake you. Protect your energy, guard your mind, detach from outcomes, and watch as your calm becomes the most intimidating force anyone around you will ever encounter. Number 5, self-mastery commands respect without confrontation. Take a moment and imagine the kind of presence that doesn't need to raise its voice, doesn't need to argue to prove a point, doesn't rely on intimidation or flashy displays to demand attention. It's quiet, calm, and unwavering, yet somehow it moves through a room and shifts the energy around it. People notice. People instinctively respect it. That presence, that power, is self-mastery. It's the art of commanding respect without confrontation. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Think about that. The most potent force isn't aggression, not manipulation, not clever words or dramatic gestures. It's the mastery of your own reactions, your own emotions, your own energy. When you cultivate that, when you practice holding your center, when you refuse to be tossed by someone else's chaos, you radiate an authority that no one can question. You are unshakable, and that is inherently intimidating. People don't push against someone who is at peace. They pause, they listen, they observe because they feel a strength they can't match or easily challenge. Self-mastery starts with awareness. Notice how often you react automatically, how quickly frustration rises, how easily anger or irritation grabs hold, how often your words fly before thought can catch them. Awareness is the first step. Once you see it, you can step in. You can pause. You can choose. Instead of snapping back, you breathe. Instead of being pulled into someone else's storm, you remain anchored in your own calm. Over time, this pause becomes power. It's magnetic. It's disarming. People begin to notice that you don't play by the usual rules, that your attention isn't a prize to be won by provocation. You become a standard of behavior others unconsciously measure themselves against. There's also a subtle lesson in boundaries. Self-mastery is not passive. It doesn't mean tolerating abuse or letting others walk over you. It means knowing precisely where your line is and holding it without anger, without drama, without over-explaining. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom here isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about choosing how you respond, about refusing to surrender your inner state to someone else's whims. When you master yourself, confrontation becomes unnecessary. Your calm is your argument. Your presence is your leverage. You don't need to raise your voice because the solidity of your being already speaks volumes. Practicing self-mastery requires deliberate exercises. Start with small moments. When someone irritates you, when impatience bubbles up, when frustration tries to push your buttons, pause. Breathe. Observe the sensation, name it, but do not act on it immediately. Delay your reaction. Even a few seconds can be enough to shift the entire dynamic. Then choose your response intentionally. Often you'll find that the right response isn't reactive, isn't combative, but measured, calm, and precise. Over time, this becomes a habit. Your default state shifts from reactive to centered. People sense it, they feel it, and they respect it. Another layer of self-mastery is the discipline of thought. Notice what you feed your mind. Thoughts shape emotions, emotions shape actions, actions shape your presence. When you cultivate clarity and rational thinking, you prevent emotional hijackings that lead to unnecessary conflict. You learn to let go of the petty slights, the imagined offenses, the small provocations that often drive others to act impulsively. You become the calm in the storm, the fixed point around which chaos orbits but cannot touch. Seneca wrote, "A man's worth is measured by the calmness of his mind." That calmness is contagious, magnetic, and yes, it commands respect. People instinctively defer to it, not because you demanded it, but because it emanates from you naturally. Consider your interactions. How often do arguments escalate because both parties are reacting rather than responding? How often is tension prolonged because someone feels the need to prove dominance? Self-mastery interrupts that cycle. When you stay grounded, when you resist reacting, you shift the dynamic entirely. The other person may not immediately understand what is happening, but they feel it. They feel the weight of someone who is anchored, deliberate, and unshaken. That is power without aggression. That is authority without confrontation. That is respect commanded without a single raised voice. To deepen this practice, pair awareness with reflection. At the end of each day, spend a few minutes recalling moments of tension. Where did you maintain calm? Where did you react impulsively? How could you have held your ground without conflict? Writing these reflections down strengthens your mind muscle for self-mastery. It trains you to anticipate triggers and approach them with measured presence rather than automatic reaction. Over time, Your internal compass becomes so calibrated that you move through life with a quiet authority. Your reputation, your influence, your relationships, they all shift in response to your composed energy. Self-mastery also extends to your emotional independence. True respect arises when others sense that your inner state is untouchable. You are not swayed by praise or insult, by agreement or opposition. You cultivate a serenity that shields you from external turbulence. And that serenity is intimidating because it is rare. Most people wear their emotional states openly, like flags signaling vulnerability. When you do not, when your calm is consistent, your poise demands attention and signals a strength that cannot be undermined. In essence, self-mastery transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. You begin to realize that power doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to confront, it doesn't need to dominate. It simply exists, quietly, consistently, and visibly through your calm. Others notice, they respect, they adjust. The Stoics teach that the most formidable strength is internal, invisible, yet undeniably felt. By mastering yourself, by controlling your mind, your reactions, and your energy, you become a force that commands respect without ever needing to raise a hand, argue a point, or assert dominance. Your calm is your armor. Your poise is your weapon. Your presence is your statement. So commit to this. Observe, pause, choose, and reflect. Strengthen your inner fortitude through daily practice. Anchor yourself in calmness, in rationality, in deliberate action. Watch how your influence grows, how others respond differently, how respect arrives naturally, without confrontation. The path of self-mastery is the path of true power. Peace becomes your most intimidating power because it signals that you are untouchable, unshakable, and unbound by the chaos around you. Command your mind, master your reactions, and the world will command its respect for you, without you ever having to demand it. Number 6, emotional neutrality disarms manipulation attempts. Imagine the world around you as a stormy sea. Waves crash, winds howl, and everyone around you seems tossed by the tempest of emotions, reactions, and impulses. In that chaos, your power doesn't come from matching the noise, from yelling louder, or from reacting faster. It comes from calm. Emotional neutrality, the serene center of your mind that the Stoics revered, is the anchor that others can't shake. When you maintain this state, you become invisible to manipulation attempts. People try to provoke, to pressure, to push buttons, but they hit nothing but stillness. Marcus Aurelius tells us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's it. That's the core. Your reactions are yours alone. No one can force anger, guilt, or fear into you unless you allow it. The moment you understand this, you stop being prey to emotional triggers. You stop being a puppet to every hand that wants to pull your strings. Emotional neutrality is not apathy. It's not suppressing feelings until they explode later. It's a conscious, deliberate stance. You acknowledge emotions, you register them, but you don't give them free rein. You watch them, almost like a scientist observing a chemical reaction in a lab. You notice frustration, irritation, or envy bubbling up, but you don't act on it. You let it pass. This is intimidating, though subtly, to those who thrive on triggering reactions. Why? Because manipulators, whether subtle or overt, rely on your emotional reactions. They need you to get angry, defensive, flustered, or panicked. They want you to play their game. But when you remain neutral, the game collapses. Their strategies fail. Their influence is nullified. They can no longer predict or control your behavior because your mind is no longer a playground for their schemes. The beauty of this is how quietly powerful it is. People often confuse loud, reactive behavior with strength. They assume that a raised voice or a fiery response signals dominance, but what you are learning is far subtler and far more effective. Emotional neutrality creates a gravitational field around you. Others unconsciously sense that your inner state is unshakable. They realize, even if only intuitively, that they cannot manipulate you. This shifts the power dynamic instantly. You are not competing, arguing, or wrestling for control. You are simply yourself, a calm, composed, unmovable center in a chaotic world. Seneca reminds us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Those who attempt to manipulate you are depending on imagined reactions, assumed weaknesses. When you remove the fuel, the emotional flare-ups, they are left staring at nothing. Now you may ask, how do you actually cultivate this neutrality? Start by observing your reactions. Notice the first flicker of irritation, the first tightness in your chest when someone tries to provoke you. Don't act. Don't push back immediately. Take a breath, step back in your mind, and recognize that the emotion is temporary and entirely within your control. You are the master of your perception. This is your practice. Every time a situation arises that would normally pull you into reactive chaos, pause. Label the emotion. Ah, this is irritation. Then ask yourself, does acting on this serve me or them? More often than not, the answer is that it serves neither you nor your integrity. Once you can consistently do this, your presence changes. People notice the difference between those who react instantly and those who respond deliberately. Your calmness becomes a shield, your neutrality a fortress. It's a quiet intimidation, but it's powerful. The world starts to measure you not by your words, but by the depth of your composure. You begin to realize that peace itself is power, the kind of power that doesn't need to shout, threaten, or manipulate. It simply exists, unassailable and undeniable. Another layer of this practice is anticipation. When you expect manipulation attempts, when you foresee that someone may try to provoke, you prepare your mind in advance. This is not paranoia, it's strategy. The Stoics trained themselves to visualize challenges before they arose, to practice calm in imagined scenarios so that when reality struck, they were ready. You can do the same. In quiet moments, imagine someone attempting to unsettle you. Feel the emotion rise and practice letting it dissolve before it affects your judgment. This mental rehearsal strengthens your neutrality in real life. Over time, it becomes instinctive. The final element is integration into daily life. Emotional neutrality isn't just for conflict. It's for negotiations, for discussions, for encounters where stakes are high or tension is simmering. It's for social dynamics, professional challenges, and personal relationships. It allows you to act from clarity rather than reaction. It empowers you to speak only when necessary, to act decisively, and to preserve your energy while others expend theirs in futile attempts to influence you. When you consistently practice this, manipulation doesn't just fail. It's anticipated, navigated, and neutralized before it even begins. So here's your takeaway. Begin today. Observe your emotional triggers, step back before reacting, and let neutrality guide you. Reflect daily on moments where you allowed emotions to control you, and envision how neutrality would have changed the outcome. Practice mental rehearsals for future challenges. Embrace calm as your default state and watch how others' attempts to manipulate you falter, powerless against your composed presence. Peace is not passive. It is the most intimidating power there is, silent, unmovable, and profoundly respected. You are not reacting, you are mastering. You are not losing control, you are owning it. And in that mastery, the world recognizes the true weight of your power. Number 7, consistent serenity inspires awe and caution. Imagine standing in the eye of a storm. Around you, chaos churns, tempers flare, people scramble, and yet you remain calm, unshaken, steady, a silent center in the whirlwind. That is the essence of consistent serenity, and it is one of the most quietly intimidating forces you can cultivate. When you carry peace with you, unwavering not as a fleeting moment but as a habitual state, it communicates something powerful without a single word. People notice it instinctively. They feel it. They sense that your stability is not dependent on circumstance, that your composure is a fortress, and in the presence of such certainty, they instinctively tread carefully. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is not about passive calm or avoidance. It is about cultivating an internal environment so controlled, so steady, that external turbulence cannot penetrate it. Your serenity becomes a form of authority. Your quiet presence is both inspiring and cautionary. People intuitively recognize that someone who is consistently unshakable is not easily manipulated, not prone to rash decisions, not moved by trivial provocations. They instinctively measure their own actions around you. The beauty of consistent serenity is in its subtlety. You are not announcing power. You are embodying it. Your calmness is a statement in itself, a language that transcends words. Every tension-filled glance, every moment of potential conflict is met with your composed presence, and others feel the weight of it. There is a magnetic quality to someone who remains steady amid chaos. You become a point of reference. Your inner peace acts like a mirror. Others measure themselves against it, and the contrast can be both humbling and intimidating. In a world where people are often reactive, loud, or frantic, your calm is revolutionary. Seneca reminds us, "No man was ever wise by chance." Your wisdom, reflected through unwavering serenity, is deliberate, cultivated, and obvious in the way you carry yourself. When you meet challenges without losing composure, when you listen without rushing to judgment, when you respond instead of reacting, you signal a mastery over yourself that others cannot claim. They instinctively feel your discipline, and that feeling commands respect. To practice this consistently, start with the small, everyday moments. Notice your breath when irritation arises. Watch the sensations in your body when tension builds. Practice pausing before responding, even to minor provocations. This pause is a simple yet profound exercise. It allows you to break the cycle of automatic reactivity. Over time, these small exercises accumulate into an overarching calm that becomes a defining feature of your presence. The world will test you relentlessly. People will push boundaries. Situations will try to destabilize you. But your consistency in remaining serene is a declaration of internal authority. You are saying without words, "I am unshaken. I am intentional. I am beyond the chaos of trivialities." And that message resonates louder than any argument, louder than any display of force. Another dimension to this power is the effect it has on perception. People assume that those who are easily rattled are weak, that those who show volatility lack control. By contrast, your calm is a silent warning. It is the quiet understanding that you are not impulsive, that you do not react to every slight, that your energy is measured and precise. This inspires caution. People tread more carefully around those who maintain composure because they recognize that provocation will not yield results, that manipulation will fail. Your peace becomes a protective shield, a deterrent, and simultaneously an attraction. There is a natural draw toward someone who is steady, whose mind is clear, whose presence feels like a safe harbor in a storm. Yet that same draw carries a subtle intimidation. People instinctively respect the calm because they recognize the discipline and mastery behind it, even if they cannot articulate it. Your serenity is both a promise and a boundary, a quiet but unmistakable statement of control. Here's a practical way to strengthen this form of power. Begin each day with intention. Set the expectation that no external event will disturb your peace. Reflect on potential triggers, not to dwell on them but to fortify yourself against them. Then, throughout the day, engage in mindful observation. Notice when your patience is tested, when your mind drifts toward frustration or impatience. Each moment of awareness is an opportunity to return to your center, to anchor yourself in calm. Over weeks, this practice cultivates a baseline of serenity that is unshakable. You will notice people responding differently. Conversations become smoother, conflicts diminish, and subtle shifts in perception occur. Your calm does not demand recognition, yet recognition arises naturally. You are commanding influence simply by being steady. Consistent serenity also changes the way you approach decision-making. When you are unshaken, you think more clearly. You observe more accurately. You act with precision rather than reaction. Others will begin to notice this too. They see the results of your steady presence and begin to connect your calm with competence, reliability, and strength. In effect, your peace becomes a signal, a language of competence and authority that communicates far more than words ever could. It is the embodiment of the Stoic principle that your inner state is under your control, while the outer world is not. By mastering yourself, by maintaining composure consistently, you wield a quiet but undeniable power. Finally, consider this. Intimidation does not require aggression. Awe does not require spectacle. True power is often invisible until it is felt. Your calm, your serenity, your consistent steadiness. These are forms of influence that work on perception, on instinct, on the way people feel in your presence. When you master this, you no longer need to push or force. Your quiet authority precedes you. You inspire without trying, you caution without threatening, and you command respect without demanding it. This is the ultimate Stoic power. It is not in what you say or how loud you are, but in the unshakable composure you carry as a daily practice. Step into this habit deliberately. Make serenity your default state. Let it radiate through every interaction, every glance, every decision. When others encounter you, let them feel the calm, and in that feeling, let them recognize the mastery behind it. Consistent serenity is your quiet fortress. It is your invisible sword. And when wielded deliberately, it inspires awe, commands caution, and makes your presence and your absence equally potent. Number 8, peaceful confidence attracts influence naturally. There is a kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, doesn't perform. It simply exists, quietly, effortlessly, and yet commands attention. That power is peace. Imagine walking into a room and carrying a sense of calm that feels almost tangible, like the air itself bends slightly in your favor. People notice it. They gravitate toward it. They are influenced not because you push, persuade, or manipulate, but because your presence signals a profound sense of mastery over yourself. This is peaceful confidence, and it's one of the most formidable tools you can cultivate. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." When you carry this inner strength, your confidence radiates without effort. There is no need to prove yourself, no need to compete, no need to react to every provocation. People instinctively sense the difference. They feel it in conversations, in negotiations, in leadership. Peaceful confidence creates influence naturally because it is magnetic. It's not a technique, it's a state of being. This kind of influence comes from mastery over your internal world. You are not swayed by chaos or drama. You don't need validation or applause to assert your value. You operate from a place of stability, and that stability is irresistible. People respect those who are steady when everything around them is turbulent, because it signals competence, clarity, and authority. Think about it. Someone who flares up with anger, who constantly seeks attention or approval, may be louder, but their influence is fragile, easily shaken. Your calmness, however, communicates that you are centered, reliable, and grounded. It's not coercion. It's a quiet, undeniable pull. This is why Stoics emphasize self-control over external circumstances. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your peaceful confidence is your reaction, your choice, and that choice shapes how others respond to you. To cultivate this, start with awareness. Begin noticing moments when you feel unsettled, irritated, or pressured to overreact. Instead of acting on these impulses, pause, breathe. Acknowledge the emotion, but refuse to let it control your actions. You are training yourself to respond deliberately, not reflexively. Over time, this deliberate calmness becomes your default. When others encounter you, they feel your presence first, your words second. That is influence. It does not need to be loud, flashy, or dramatic. It is steady, measured, and consistent. Influence born from inner peace lasts longer than influence born from force, because it is rooted in authenticity, not performance. Another essential aspect of peaceful confidence is detachment from outcomes. You act with intention, but you are not obsessed with how others will respond. You do not chase recognition, validation, or control over situations that are ultimately beyond your command. By freeing yourself from these attachments, your energy becomes lighter, your decisions sharper, your presence more magnetic. Others are drawn to this because humans instinctively respect those who operate from strength rather than desperation, from calm rather than chaos. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Peaceful confidence signals abundance. You have enough within yourself, enough control, enough clarity. This abundance communicates strength silently, naturally, irresistibly. Practical exercises can help you cultivate this state. Begin each day with reflection. Center yourself, set intentions, remind yourself that your power lies in your inner state, not in controlling others. Throughout the day, practice pausing before responding, even in small interactions. Let your calmness be noticed not through words, but through the way you hold space, the steadiness of your presence, the unshakable energy you project. Engage in moments of stillness, meditation, quiet reflection, walking without distraction, where you can reconnect with that unmovable center. These moments are like sharpening a blade. They hone your ability to influence without force. Importantly, peaceful confidence is contagious. When you maintain your composure in tense situations, others mirror it. They sense that if you can remain calm, so can they. Your influence grows not through directives or pressure, but through modeling. You become a stabilizing force, a magnet that draws respect and alignment naturally. This is how true power works. It doesn't need to assert itself. It allows itself to be recognized. People seek your counsel, value your perspective, and follow your lead not because you demanded it, but because your presence embodies mastery. Ultimately, peaceful confidence is a commitment to yourself. It is choosing to be grounded, intentional, and deliberate in every thought, word, and action. It is the art of moving through life without being buffeted by every storm, of maintaining clarity when others are clouded by emotion, of embodying a state of calm that inspires trust, admiration, and natural influence. The Stoics understood this deeply. Power without peace is unstable. Influence without self-mastery is fleeting. By prioritizing peace within, you create influence outside. You do not need to dominate, persuade, or perform. You simply need to cultivate an internal calm that radiates outward, attracting respect, shaping outcomes, and allowing you to achieve more than you ever could through noise, reaction, or force. Start today. Notice your reactions. Pause before responding. Breathe before acting. Center yourself in the moments of chaos. With each choice, you reinforce your peaceful confidence, and with each reinforcement, your influence grows. In the quiet of your own mastery, you will discover the most intimidating power there is, the power of peace that shapes the world around you simply by being unshakable, consistent, and utterly magnetic. Number 9, inner stillness reveals control over one's mind. Imagine standing in the middle of chaos, the world around you spinning with tension, noise, and demands, and yet feeling completely unshaken. That calm, that quiet, isn't just luck or a rare temperament, it's power. True power doesn't scream, it doesn't demand attention. It simply exists, unshakable, anchored in a mastery that most people never even glimpse. That is the essence of inner stillness. When you cultivate stillness within, you are doing more than calming your thoughts. You are signaling to yourself first and to the world second that you are the master of your own mind. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. These words aren't a suggestion, they're a roadmap. You begin by noticing your thoughts, observing them without judgment, and understanding that you are not the reactions, the anxieties, the irritations that flicker across your consciousness. You start to see that peace isn't passive. It's an active command of your own inner world, a declaration that no external storm, No insult, setback, or provocation can dictate your state of being. When you achieve this, the effect is subtle but magnetic. People sense it instantly, even if they can't name it. They notice that you don't flinch, that your gaze doesn't waver, that your responses are measured, calm, deliberate. That stillness communicates more authority than shouting ever could. It says, without words, I am not controlled by you. I am not controlled by circumstance. I am in command of myself. And make no mistake, there is something almost intimidating about this. Not because it threatens anyone directly, but because it reveals a mastery few possess and even fewer understand. The Stoics teach that control over your mind is the highest form of freedom. Freedom from impulse, from fear, from the endless pull of external pressures. And once you live there, in that space of inner calm, you begin to interact with the world from a place of clarity rather than reaction. The first step is awareness. You must learn to notice when your mind begins to scatter, when fear, anger, or frustration creeps in. Don't fight it immediately, don't judge yourself. Simply observe, take a slow breath and acknowledge the thought, this is happening in my mind, I am aware of it. That tiny pause, that small act of recognition, is your entry point into control. Then you gently guide your focus back to what matters, back to your purpose, back to your center. Over time, this becomes instinctive. Each moment of calm is a moment you reclaim, a moment where you are not a victim of your emotions but their steward. Seneca once wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom, in this sense, is inseparable from stillness. You are free when your mind does not drag you in every direction, when you can remain steady even as the world attempts to pull you off balance. Practice deepening this inner stillness in small, intentional ways. Begin each day with a moment of quiet reflection, noticing your thoughts before they pull you into distraction. When a stressful situation arises, pause. Let your breath lead, not your reaction. Repeat this until you start to feel a shift. The chaos may still exist outside, but inside you are untouchable. As you train your mind, you'll notice a ripple effect. Decisions come with clarity. Conversations carry weight because you are speaking from a place of calm authority rather than reactive emotion. Challenges no longer feel like attacks. They are opportunities to exercise composure, to demonstrate control. And gradually, this becomes part of your presence. People feel it without realizing why. They defer to it instinctively because it is rooted in something primal. The knowledge that here is a person whose mind is unbreakable, whose focus is unshakable, whose power lies not in dominance but in mastery over self. Inner stillness also frees you from the invisible chains of expectation and comparison. When your mind is calm, you are not consumed by envy, by desire for validation, or by the restless need to assert superiority. You operate from sufficiency, from completeness, from a deep awareness that your value and power are inherent, not contingent on others, opinions, or approval. This is profoundly intimidating to those who measure strength externally. They react to your calmness, your lack of agitation, as if it's an anomaly because they themselves are constantly tossed by waves of external circumstance. And that is where your advantage lies. Peace becomes your leverage. Not because you seek to control others, but because control over yourself creates a gravitational pull that others unconsciously recognize. You become a lighthouse amid storms, a reference point of steadiness, and that is magnetic. To integrate this into your daily life, try a simple exercise. During moments of irritation, pause and observe your internal response. Identify the first thought or emotion that surfaces. Then take 3 deliberate breaths, allowing the mind to detach from the initial impulse. Ask yourself, does this serve my clarity? Does this honor my peace? If not, let it go. Repeat this process throughout your day and notice how interactions shift. You begin to act rather than react, to influence rather than be influenced, and to project a quiet authority that speaks volumes without uttering a single word. The Stoics believe that inner mastery is the true measure of power. By cultivating stillness, you step into that mastery, demonstrating control that cannot be taken, borrowed, or challenged. It is intimidating not because it threatens others, but because it is self-contained, impenetrable, and enduring. So, start now. Claim small moments of quiet. Recognize that each thought is your domain, each reaction under your stewardship. Let your mind be like a calm lake, unruffled by wind, reflective, deep, and full of clarity. In doing so, you will discover a power that is subtle, undeniable, and far more lasting than any outward display of force. Inner stillness is not passivity, it is active mastery. It is the ultimate Stoic power, and once you step into it, you will realize that peace is not just comforting. It is, quite literally, the most intimidating power you can possess. Number 10, the refusal to react is the ultimate assertion of power. Imagine for a moment the last time someone provoked you, pushed your buttons, or tried to rattle you. You felt that surge of heat in your chest, the mind spinning, the urge to strike back, defend yourself, justify, or attack. That's the instinct that most people follow, the instinct to react. But here's the secret the Stoics have been teaching for centuries. True power, real, unshakable authority doesn't come from reacting. It comes from the refusal to react. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Think about that. When you step back, when you refuse to engage with the chaos that surrounds you, you are not showing weakness. You are asserting a form of control that is almost impossible to challenge. You are creating a space where others' attempts to manipulate, insult, or destabilize simply slide off you, powerless to touch your inner calm. This is not passive. This is deliberate. This is active mastery of self. Every time you resist the urge to respond in anger, to escalate, to feed the drama, you are flexing an invisible muscle, one that radiates strength louder than words or force ever could. Refusing to react doesn't mean you ignore reality, pretend nothing is happening, or suppress your feelings. It means you observe, you discern, you choose your engagement consciously. You decide which battles are worthy of your energy and which are not. You understand that someone else's provocation is theirs, not yours. You see it for what it is, a reflection of their mind, their chaos, not a decree over your state. Seneca reminds us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. By refusing to react, you break free from the chains of imagined offenses, from the invisible leash of someone else's mood or misjudgment. You reclaim your mental territory. You stand firm while the world buzzes and flares around you. You become unshakable, untouchable, the calm in the storm that no one can sweep away. Here's where the intimidation factor comes in. People instinctively push against resistance. When they provoke someone who reacts, they feel in control, like their energy is meeting opposition. But when they provoke you and you don't respond, they are left facing a wall of calm that they cannot breach. That refusal is more threatening than any verbal retaliation, any show of force. It signals mastery. It signals that you are not bound by their whims, not triggered by their attempts to sway you, not vulnerable to their chaos. You are the eye of the storm, the quiet center where nothing unsettles you. Others feel it instinctively. They sense your equilibrium, and it commands respect, fear, or even awe. This is the power of peace, not as passive absence, but as an active, invisible force that shapes the environment around you without lifting a finger. And the beauty of it is that this power is always available to you. It doesn't depend on wealth, status, connections, or influence. It depends solely on your ability to master yourself, to separate your inner world from the outer turbulence. Every time you pause before responding, every time you resist the pull of immediate reaction, you reinforce this principle. You train your mind like a muscle, growing stronger with each deliberate choice. You start to notice patterns, what triggers you, what situations drain your energy, where others' expectations attempt to claim authority over your inner peace. And in that noticing, you gain freedom. You gain clarity. you gain power. Practically, you can begin with simple exercises. Start with one interaction each day where you deliberately pause. Someone says something irritating, dismissive, or provocative. Notice your first impulse. Then take a breath, count to 3, observe the urge without acting on it. Feel the difference between your mind spinning and your mind steady. Reflect afterward. What would have happened if you had reacted? How does your refusal to react shift the dynamic? Extend this practice into more challenging moments. Cultivate a habit of detachment, not indifference, and watch how your presence changes. People begin to approach you differently. Conversations shift. Tension melts. Respect forms silently around the aura of your calm. The refusal to react also strengthens your decision-making. When you are not dragged into emotional escalation, your mind remains clear, your judgment sharp. You respond not out of impulse, but from strategy and understanding. You recognize which engagements serve your purpose and which do not. You conserve your energy for meaningful action, rather than squandering it on petty conflicts or imagined slights. This is the ultimate assertion of power, the ability to act deliberately, to influence the world from a position of peace rather than chaos, to command attention without aggression, and to be felt even when you say nothing. So, embrace this Stoic law of power. Notice your triggers, practice restraint, and cultivate the art of non-reaction. Let others erupt, argue, flail, or insult. You remain unmoved, centered, composed. In doing so, you are not only protecting your peace, you are wielding it as a weapon far more formidable than anger, louder than words, and more enduring than force. This is intimidation through serenity, authority through calm, influence through absence of reaction. Step into this practice, make it your habit, and watch as your presence alone shapes the world around you, leaving people both in awe and in recognition of the undeniable power of someone who refuses to react. Your power, your strength, your mastery, it begins where reaction ends. Remember what Marcus Aurelius said: "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Imagine carrying a calm so unshakable, so deeply rooted that nothing outside, no insult, no chaos, no provocation can touch it. That is true power. As you step out into the world, let your peace be your shield and your presence. Let people feel it, not because you shout or demand respect, but because your serenity speaks louder than words ever could. When others are reactive, anxious, or desperate for control, your steady calm becomes your most intimidating force. Practice it daily. Take a moment each morning to center yourself. Remember that real strength isn't shown through dominance. It's shown through quiet confidence, unshaken by circumstance. Carry this with you and watch how life bends, not to your aggression, but to your unwavering peace. Power has never been quieter or stronger.